Any math majors in the making? That would be 10 to 19 points. How many people were 10 to 19? Oh, you were? Good, so you don't have a whole lot of anxiety dealing with math then.
No, I'll want to know the resources in some available math classes because all of those, the only video that I'm looking at when I practice math is Khan Academy. That's the only one.
Oh, so you can't go, oh, see that? Okay. I might have to meet with you separately because and I can maybe look into some other ones for you, but I didn't,
Okay, but it's no
Because
problem.
I
I
want
mean,
plans.
because I already.
I thought it was supposed to be more about like people that are scared of math and that sort of thing, but no, that's all right. How about 20 to 29 points? All right, so not too bad, right?
Not too bad.
A little bit. How about 30 to 39? Yep, no doubt. Thought of doing math makes you uneasy. How about 40 to 50? Was that you? Where were you? Oh, okay, all right, so not too bad. But a lot of times, not just math is a source of anxiety, but studying for a test and not knowing how to study for math. And that's where the resources come into play, but also just knowing kind of what you're working with. So I have some things we're going to go through up here that could possibly help you. And I've got a couple of other handouts, but I'll probably wait on those. Now, this is not me, Tara Davis. I told you I'm Alison Moore. But I have permission from somebody who had permission for this. Like I stole this from somebody, but she let me use it. And she stole it from someone else, who was this person. So it kind of goes through the ranks like that. But it's a really good, I really like it. I like, and I would have just like copied and pasted it into my notebooks, but yeah.
The second pal.
Right, exactly. So a lot of people don't know how to study math, which is probably maybe one thing you're looking for, resources to help you study. And a lot of times I hear that all the time in math classes. How do I study math? A lot of people, how to study other subjects. For other subjects, I'm just going to reread the chapter, or I'm going to take notes on this, or whatever. A lot of people don't know how to study math. And so that's, I hear that all the time in my classes. Many people think that to study math, you can just look at it. What do y'all think?
No.
You just look at math to study math? No, not at all, right? You have to actually do it, right? Practice makes perfect, okay? It's a skill that must be practiced, right? And also, have you ever missed a math class? Like for a good reason, maybe you have a doctor's appointment or you were sick or something like that. Did you feel lost when you came back? Perhaps a little bit, right? I know some of just because it's a continuation, right? Always. And if you come back and if you're not up to speed with what's going on, it's really hard. So the first thing is try not to miss any classes, but life happens, I understand that. And, but if you do miss classes, make sure that you do what you need to do to get caught up. Do homework and practice, even if it's not required to turn it in. This is huge.
That takes a lot of discipline.
It takes a lot of discipline, but let me tell you from my experience, in the classes that I teach, I give them suggested homework problems. I don't take up homework for a grade, and because I teach the early college classes and their books are paid for them, I can't require them to do my math lab, which probably some of your teachers do. Do they?
Yeah,
Do the Pearson? Yeah. So I can't require them to do that just because the city and the county won't pay for it. But I give them suggested problems to do out of the book, and I tell them strongly suggested because so I'm not going around and checking and making sure they do it, but let me tell you, the ones that do all those problems, because I give them the odds so that they can check the answers in the back, the ones that do all those problems, they're the ones making the A's. They're the ones making the A's because they're practicing, right? So I don't know if you can see this little cartoon. It's very small, but it says, this one says, you have to solve this problem by yourself. You can't call tech support. He's got his little cell phone now. And then this says, I forgot to make a backup copy of my brain, so I forgot everything I learned, or everything I learned last semester was lost. So how many people feel that way? Sometimes when you go from one semester to another, you end up forgetting, not just from one semester to another. How about if you have a Tuesday, Thursday class, and you have class on Thursday, and then when's your next class? Tuesday. You've had a long weekend, a Friday to a Monday between, and if you don't pick up your math book, look at your math notes, do math problems between that Thursday and that Tuesday, then you're going to feel lost when you get back to class on Tuesday. So that is a really, whether you're, and even on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I mean, it's just Monday, Wednesday, Friday works a little better because there's not as big of a break. But I know even me, like I literally, I just came out of teaching my Math 163 class that I teach at 11 o'clock on Tuesday, Thursday. And when I see them, you know, today being Tuesday, I was like, gosh, Thursday was so long ago. What? Yeah, I was like, can y'all remind me what we were working on? Just, I mean, I know we were working on, by the way, but I wanted to see if they remembered. So can you remind me what we were working on? And I mean, it feels like a long time ago. So make sure that you are keeping up daily so that even when you don't have math class. And this is on to the same thing, okay? Homework. When you're working on homework, the best way to use homework to help you, a lot of people just hate homework. They think it's a bad word. They don't like doing it. I have a son in the 9th grade, and when he doesn't have homework, I'm all disappointed. I'm like, oh. He's like, Mom, what's wrong with you? Because to me, homework, unless it's given as busy work, and trust me, I know there are some teachers that will give it to you as busy work, but if it's done right, if the teacher is giving you really good problems to do, I mean, it is by far the best way to make sure that you're understanding it. Because think about this, when you're in a class and the teacher's up on the board explaining a problem, of course you're like, yeah, that makes sense, you know, step by step, even if the teacher says, okay, what's the next step? You got it step by step. Then all of a sudden you're home. You've been to other classes, maybe you've been to work, maybe children. Maybe you've been picking up your children or doing something with your friends or your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever. You know, your brain is far away from that math class that you went to at 9 o'clock that morning, right? So doing your homework, you don't want to say to yourself, oh, well, I totally got what she did in class today. I don't need to look at it. That's where you end up kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Okay, you have to open up that book or whatever happens to be, your notes, okay, and do the work. Do the actual homework that's assigned. And then another thing on top of this, which I encourage my students to do, I doubt any of them do it, but what I encourage my students to do is the examples that I do in class, I encourage them to redo them at home without looking at the work that we did in class. So literally, like, look at it real quick just to get the problem, write it on a separate sheet of paper over here, push that aside, then try to do it completely on your own. I tell them, pretend like it's a quiz. Pretend like somebody's going to take it up and grade it. Like, how much of it could you actually do on your own? But then the good thing is, if they get stuck, if they forget what we talked about, guess what? They have the notes right here, exactly what we went through in class. So that's a good way to practice, not just the homework problems, which you haven't seen worked out before, but an actual in-class example that you can actually redo. So, and then this one right here, attempt all homework problems, even if you get the wrong answer or even do half the problems. I love mistakes, okay? Mistakes, and this is a t-shirt I want to get. It showed up on my Facebook feed because I get all this mathy stuff because I'm a math nerd. But anyway, it says mistakes are proof that you're trying, and that's true. I love it. Like when my students raise their hands and they answer a question wrong, I love it. I'm like, that's not right, but I'm so glad you said that because now we can talk about how you got that, why you got that. So you try every single thing, whether you think you're going to get it or not. You've got to dive into it, right? How are you going to know if you know how to swim if you never, ever get in a pool? Think about that. You never get in a pool. If you dip your foot in, yeah, it feels kind of cold. Oh, it looks like those people over there are having fun. But if you don't ever get in, how are you going to know? Now, I don't recommend completely jumping in the deep end if you don't know how to swim because I'm not asking for y'all to drown here. But, you know, jumping in and doing a few little strokes and knowing that there's someone there to help you, which is what we're getting to.
Maybe you can think of this, I've always enjoyed listening to this. Success is just one more try.
That is true. success is just one more try, right? It's just one step away from failure, really,
Yeah.
right? It's like
All
that's
great
success.
inventors were failures.
Oh, absolutely.
For a long time.
Yeah, and you just hear about their successes.
Yeah, you just heard about the last try.
Yeah, you don't hear about the 1,700 other tries that they did. Exactly.
Right.
And then the other thing is about the calculator. I thought about skipping over this little part, but I can't resist. I tell my students all the time, you are smarter than your calculator. Did you know that? You really are. You're smarter than your calculator. Now your calculator can calculate things a lot faster than you, okay? And your calculator, like I couldn't tell you, the sign of 0.731 in my head, right? I need my calculator for that. But you are smarter in terms of knowing what kind of answers make sense, right? Knowing that something should turn out negative, knowing that something should turn out to be a fraction, or something between 0 and 1, things like that. If you're doing a word problem having to do with money, and how much money do you have in the bank after a certain number of years, and you put $5,000 in, and if you end up with like $15 million, I'm coming to your bank.
Yeah.
But you did something wrong, right? But your calculator said it. It says it right there, $15 million. Well, guess what? You're smarter than your calculator, right? You know that something happened wrong. So it says, I like this one, I think, therefore you don't. That's what the calculator's telling you, like, don't think, just use me. Oops. Okay. And then the other thing with homework, as we said before, is you don't rush through it and do it a little at a time, because it's so easy to get overwhelmed. If you may have a situation where your teacher does check it and requires you to do if you save it all to do in one big clump all at one time, you're going to get overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to get it done. Something's going to happen, right? Do it in little bits and pieces. That way, if you do get frustrated, you can put it down and walk away. Just put it down and walk away for a little bit. Do something else. Get something to eat. Go outside. Jump in the puddles. Whatever. Do something else. Clear your brain. And then you can come back to it, and it may make a little bit more sense. So definitely have an option of walking away. Never save, and that's actually good advice for everything and everybody about not saving stuff to the last minute. We all do it. We're all procrastinators, right? I mean, maybe I'm right? I know I am. But you're a lot less stressed if you don't procrastinate, right? A lot less stressed. So if you do it every day. And then if you are working on certain things and you find it too easy, then challenge yourself, right? Go on to another problem. See if you can do that. If you've done 1 through 29 odd and you got them all, no problem, look at number 31. Look at number 33. Again, I'm choosing the odds because I'm a really, really, really big supporter of checking your work. I don't see a purpose at all in doing homework unless it's something you've already learned and it's like a graded thing, right? But if it's the first time you've learned it in class and you're just doing it to practice it, there's no point doing it if you don't have a way of checking it to see if it's right or not. I don't see that unless unless you've already learned it, you've gone over that, and then the professor has given it to you as a graded thing. Okay, but the whole thing is you want to be able to check and see if you're doing it right. I gave out a review sheet a couple of weeks ago to my students for a test that they were going to take, and every time I give them a review sheet, I hand out the review sheet, and then I hand out the answers to the review sheet, and I tell them this is up to you how you want to use the answers, but use them. I say some people will do the whole review sheet and then pull out the answers and check every single problem. Some people will do problem by problem. Do a problem, check a problem, do a problem, check a problem. Some will do like 5 at a time. However you want to use it is up to you, but you want to check it. And I had this girl say, you're giving us the answers, well, I'm just going to look at the answers then. And I said, what do you think I said? I said, how is that going to help you if you just look at the answers? I said, why do you think I'm giving you the answers? She said, well, I don't know, but I don't want them because I'm just going to look at them. And I said, okay, well, You gotta discipline yourself. I said, fold it in half, put it to the side, don't even pull it out of your bag. Do this whole thing without the answers. I said, but how are you gonna know that you're prepared for the test if you do all these problems and you don't know if they're right or not? No point in practicing wrong, right? Wrong, right? Okay, but that's the truth. I mean, that's why homework, like why do a whole bunch of homework wrong? Okay, you wanna know if you're getting it right. So make sure that you're checking as you go. And again, and again, okay? Try again and again and again, right? Accept the fact you're gonna make mistakes. We talked about that. 3 out of 2 people have trouble with fractions. And I love this one. Find X. Here it is. I found it. Okay, yep, no problem. Got that problem right. So that's the big thing about practicing. And you know, why are so many slides up here talking about homework and practice? Because that is the way you study math. And let's face it, we started off this little thing today, this little workshop today, talking about math anxiety. Okay, and you all assess and you know your own level of anxiety, but one of the best ways to cure your anxiety is to be prepared. Okay, because the people feel the most anxious. If I were to come over to you and say, okay, clear your desk, it's time for your test, that's exactly when the anxiety levels peak, right? But something to lower those anxiety levels is being prepared, being like, I can handle anything she throws at me. I've practiced all these problems. I know exactly how to do them. She can give anything to me. And then the best case scenario is you get that test in front of you and you look at it and you're like, yep, I got this, right? So that's something to keep in mind. All right, do y'all ever zone out when studying? Of course, we're human, right? Okay, so now, or you've got your phone beside you and you're studying, you're like, oh, let me see who Snapchatted me, or let me check Facebook, whatever. It's so easy to get distracted. It's always been easy to get distracted, but to me, these days, with all the social media, it is even easier to get distracted. I mean, I do it grading papers. I get bored grading papers, and I'm like, oh, let me just scroll through Facebook a little while, and then I'll get back to it, okay? And that's okay, all right? That's like it says, work in short bursts. Like I said, get up, walk around, get a snack, okay? Stand up. You definitely need to stand up and walk around. Get in a comfortable position, but not too comfortable, because what's going to happen if you're too comfortable? You're going to fall asleep. I get on my son all the time. He likes to sit on the couch, leaning back, his feet up, and he's thinking he's studying like this, and he's leaning back. I'm like, no, you need to sit up, get yourself at a table, be comfortable, but good posture, and that's going to help it stick in your brain a little bit more. Because honestly, I fall asleep. I'm talking about grading papers. I know I mentioned it a second ago, get distracted. I fall asleep grading papers. The other day, here's a story for you. The other day, I was grading papers, and I was like, I'm just so tired. And I know better than this. I know I need to be sitting up, like at the kitchen table doing this. But I was like, I'm so tired. I'm just going to sit on the couch. So I got a clipboard, so I'd have something hard to write on, and I sat back on the couch, and I was all relaxed, had the blanket over my feet, and thinking I could concentrate on grading papers, right? So I'm grading. I had this little purple ink pen I was grading with. Next thing I know, I wake up, and there's this huge ink blotch on the papers that I'm grading. And yes, it was on this girl's paper. It went through all the pages of her test, all the pages of the next test under, and then like 2 of the pages of the next test under. So I had to admit to my class, oh, look at this ink blotch. Yeah, that's what happened. But see, as the lesson learned, right? I knew better. You know better. You know the best way that you can study is to sit upright and concentrate. So be comfortable, but not too comfortable. And get to the time. Okay, we're going to get to the seek out help in just a minute. Be confident, not overconfident. We talked about that just a little bit ago, where the overconfidence is when you're sitting in class and you see the teacher going over stuff, you're like, oh, that's easy, I got that. And then you walk away and you don't even look at it again. Thursday, all of a sudden it's Tuesday, you haven't looked at it again. She put something else up on the board and you're like, yeah, I don't remember how to do any of that. Because you hadn't looked at it between Thursday and Tuesday, right? So make sure that you keep up with that sort of thing. And think about the lesson that you learned between the dates. Can y'all read this? It's so small. Calvin says, Susie, what's 12 plus 7? Susie said, 1 billion. Thanks. Wait a minute, that can't be right. That's what she said 3 plus 4 was. So yeah, don't count on your neighbors giving you the right answers either. That's a good lesson for that one. Here we go. Seeking out help. All right. So we've talked about working hard, working on your homework, right? Checking the answers in the back of the book. What if you're not getting it right? What if you still don't know what you're doing? What if you look back at your notes and you took good notes and you were concentrating and you were sitting up, you were in that comfortable position, you weren't zoning out, you were taking breaks, you're doing all the right stuff, and you're still not getting it. And what now? Well, that's where you seek out help. Okay? What are let's think about some ways that you can get help. Okay? Let's brainstorm first. What are some ways that you can get help in math that you know of already? Online, and we're definitely going to talk more about that. What else?
I use Khan Academy to seek help.
Yeah. Have you guys used Khan Academy? K-A-H-N Academy? There. Oh, that one's not going to work, I don't think. Markers that are just sitting up there without a cap. K-A-H-N Academy. That is excellent. They have science and math, by the way. If you're in a science class, they have science stuff as well. Biology, chemistry, physics, and he explains stuff. I've never been into the science side of it. Have you all? My son did. But I mean, I've never been, but in the math side of it, he's got, what's great about Khan Academy is you go in and you can type the topic that you're looking for, okay, factoring, whatever the topic happens to be, and then you have little videos that you can watch, and he's literally just, you can't see him, but you see his writing on the little board, and then he goes through examples, and then the best thing is there's practice problems for you to work, and the best thing about those practice problems is, what did I say is the best thing about when you practice, what do you always want to do? Know if you got it right or not, right? So it'll check right away whether it'll say, yeah, you got it, or no, you didn't get it. And it gives you a chance to go back and redo. And if you get stuck along the way, there's a little, give me a hint, I'm stuck button. So that's one of the best things about that, about Khan Academy. To me, I know you're looking for some different ones, which I can tell you a couple of other ones, but from my experience, Khan Academy is by far the most thorough, I think. If you like, do you prefer videos or text explaining you?
Both text or video.
What about you guys, if you're getting help online? Or, because there's a website called Purple Math.
Oh, yeah,
Have you heard of that?
Morning.
Did you use it this morning?
And I use the Math Tutor too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's reliable.
The Math Tutor guy, the one on YouTube? Yeah, he's good. There is, I should have brought it today, but there's, okay, Purple Math, but that's no videos. That's just writing, but it's really good explanations of the topics. And then if you go to YouTube, there's the Math Tutor guy, I think is what he calls himself. He is really good. And honestly, the way I find this stuff, because sometimes as a teacher, I'll look for videos that I can, show to my students, say, hey, if you need extra help on this, look at this guy explain it. Or if I have to be out of town or miss class for a conference or something like that, sometimes I'll leave videos for them to do. And honestly, if you go to YouTube, just Google, or not Google, just put into the YouTube bar, whatever topic it is, you will see 1,000 things show up. Like if you're in a trig class and you just type in Pythagorean theorem or whatever, you will see so many choices. Now be careful not to get caught in that YouTube spiral. Ooh, that looks interesting. Oh, let me click on that. Next thing you know, you're watching videos of like dogs dancing in tutus in the rain, right? And you don't want to get caught up in that because it's really easy to just, oh wait, I'm going to just watch that for a little while. But honestly, if you just there are some better ones than others, and I could maybe look in just a few minutes and we'll pull it up. But yeah, that math tutor guy is really good. Okay, so that's definitely a good way, the online. What about if you don't want to do online? What are some other ways that you can get help? How about working with other people that you're in the class with? Forming a study group, right? Always get the name and phone number of at least one other person in your class. Always, okay? You may not know them, but you will, okay? And it's different, at a community college, a lot of times in your class, you'll have people, of all ages, of all different parts of their lives. You've got some that are, working full-time and they have kids, and then you have some that are fresh out of high school. But you're all in the boat together, right? You're all in this math class together, wanting help. And if you can form a study group with either, hopefully more than one other person, but if you can form a study group and have, regular times like, okay, our class meets at 11 o'clock. Oh good, none of us have a 10 o'clock class. Let's all meet at the library at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays or whatever. And then that's so helpful. Have you guys ever worked with study groups before? It's really helpful because sometimes like a person in your study group may understand it a little bit differently than you, and they may be able to explain it in a way that the teacher wasn't able to get through to you, but the person can. And then also on the flip side of that, if there's something you really understand well and you're explaining it to somebody else, guess what happens? All of a sudden you understand it on a much deeper level. If you're able to understand something to the point that you can teach it to someone else, then you understand it on a very deep level, and you're not going to miss it when it comes to the test. So that's always good too. A little side note here, when you are studying, doing the homework, doing practice problems, ask yourself, could I explain this to somebody else? Could I explain what I did on this problem to somebody else? I used to, back when I taught high school, I used to make my students do that on tests. I would make them explain to a friend in this class how they would solve this problem, and I would make them write that out to me on the test, because it's one thing to be able to do a problem, but to be able to explain how to do it, that's a way of really making sure that you understand it. So, study groups is up there, talking about topics. Yep. And then tutoring services. Here at CVCC, we do have a tutoring center. Now, I will say now I wasn't exactly sure who was going to show up today, because there's no way of knowing. We have this where the mall. That was 5217 where this class was originally going to be, but you probably saw when you stopped by there that it was bustling with activity. And me being in charge of developmental math, when I saw that, I was like, we need to change the classroom for this, because this is the last week of the developmental math. They have 4-week terms, and this is the last week. So they're very hardworking in there. So my point being, this right now is only reserved for developmental math, meaning the MTE classes. However, stay tuned, because we are looking to hopefully open it up to some of the upper level math classes like 163, or some of the credit level, I should say, like 163 or 151 soon, once we're able to get more resources and more tutors and that sort of thing. With that said, if I'm in there tutoring, I'm not going to kick you out if you come by and you say, hey, I have a couple questions about this, and as long as it's not full with developmental students, feel free to stop by and ask questions. Because one of the best things about the mall is there's no appointments necessary. It's a pop-in. So it's not like you have to plan ahead. However, it's good to plan ahead too. So with the tutoring center on campus, are you guys familiar with where that is? In Bedford? Yeah, like the building right over there where the library is. Go up the stairs and it's right above the library, and yeah, like when you go up the stairs, you're staring at the writing center, but turn to the right and then turn to the right again, and that's the tutoring center. And you need to go in there and you have to make appointments to see a tutor in there. But they do have tutors for all the levels of math. So you can go in there and make an appointment. You can call ahead of time and make an appointment. But that's a good way to have an appointment is not necessarily a bad thing because it holds you accountable, right? It makes you say, okay, well, if I'm gonna go in and get help with something, I better know what I'm getting help with. And let me say a little bit about that. When you go to a tutor, whether it's on the campus or whether you have, a neighbor who is a genius at math and you're gonna go next door and get help, when you go to a tutor, it's very important that you do the work ahead of time. And you might be saying, well, how am I gonna do it if I don't know how to do it? Okay, you do as much as you can ahead of time. Okay, you don't wanna walk into to meet with a tutor and just say, I don't understand any of this. Okay, you understand it enough to at least write a problem down and at least do something and get it wrong, right? You can understand it enough to get something wrong. Remember we talked about mistakes? Back to that, make a mistake. A tutor can help you more if they see what kind of mistakes you're making, right? So, do the problems, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and then take those mistakes to the tutor. Even if you know darn well you didn't get a single bit of it right as you're working on it, at least you have something written down that the tutor can work with you on, right? So that's important for tutors. So again, like as far as resources on the campus, that tutoring center is available, and then also please use your professors. Use your professors, okay? They are serious when they say, these are my office hours. I would like for you to come by and get help if you have problems, okay? They are there for you. That's part of our job. That's part of why we do what we do. We want to help you succeed, right? I mean, we're not just like, oh, here's the material, okay, I'm out of here. Okay, we want to help you succeed. And so I know I know when I was in college, it took me a little while to figure out, hey, I can actually go sit down in my professor's office and he or she will explain to me one-on-one how to do this. It took me a little while to feel confident enough to do that. So I totally understand the hesitation, because it might feel a little intimidating just to sit there like, it's just you. It's not like you and the whole class with the professor. So I understand that, but if you can break through that barrier, you can really get a lot out of it, because think of this. Who's making out your quizzes and who's making out your tests? That very professor, right? So don't you think that he or she, when they're helping you, is going to focus on the things that they feel most important, right? And the things they feel most important are going to be on the test? That's what I tell my students all the time. I'm like, if I choose to skip something in a section and then move on to something else, they'll say, is that going to be on the test? I'm like, no, I skipped it. I'm the one making out the test. I'm not going to put it on the test. That wouldn't be fair. So make sure you use your professors. And if their office hours are not convenient to you because of your work schedule or your other classes or that sort of thing, don't let that be a deterrent. Go up to your professor at the end of class or at the beginning of class and say, hey, I really need help with this, but I can't come during your office hours because that's exactly when I work. Is there another time that maybe we could meet? And most of the time there is. They might say, oh yeah, I'm in my office 30 minutes before this class or something like that. I think almost every professor on this campus is willing to work with you. We all want you to succeed. So keep that in mind as well. So any questions about seeking out help at all? I know we can talk more about the YouTube thing as well, but yes.
Out of curiosity, when is this class end? Because I have a lab at 2.
We'll be done in like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was supposed to go to like 1:50, so yeah. Yeah. Good. All right. Make sure. Okay. So I was just going to show you on YouTube. That tutor guy, is that the one you were talking about? Or, let's see, this is the one I was, look at that, that sucks, but it doesn't. We don't have volume on this. But what I was gonna show you actually is if you just, any topic, like give me a topic you're struggling with in math, anybody?
Exponential function.
Okay. Khan Academy is gonna show up on here too. But, look at all these things.
Yeah, let's see if you look at.
This guy right here, Patrick JMT, I use his stuff a lot. Have you guys seen him before? I don't know who these people are. Let me skip you. All right. And what he does is he writes with like a Sharpie on a piece of paper, but his so it's not, you know, all those cartoony people dancing around like in that ad that we just saw. But he does a really good job of doing examples and explaining it step by step. So if you want to write it, it's Patrick JMT. If you see that name next to anything, and he has almost every topic. I've used him for trig stuff, for this, you know, this is the regular pre-calc stuff, for calculus stuff, and then anything before that as well. So he's a great resource. Were you going to say something else?
Yeah, let's see if you watch a lot of videos, YouTube videos from different YouTubers, and they have like different explanations how they do stuff.
Yeah.
But isn't it a little bit confusing to do
And that's where you have to be careful, because with math, often there are multiple ways of doing the same thing, right? Your teacher's gonna teach you one way, right? You may go to a video and it might show you a different way. Now, it depends on your teacher. What I tell my students usually is, if you get it right and you're doing the math right, why do I care what way you do it? I mean, you're getting it right, you're not doing, you know. So, but if your teacher is real picky about you doing it their particular way, then I guess that's a little bit, you're not, don't watch the video that shows it a different way. So that's probably the best, it's not really advice, but probably the best thing I could say about that. But yeah, this guy's really pretty straightforward though. Looks like they have a class meeting here in a minute. Yeah, we have about a minute. They're probably not used to a class meeting here right now, because we're not usually in here. So any other questions about resources and ways to ease your math anxiety? But none of y'all really have that much. So, all right, so bottom line, we have do your homework and do your notes. And I know one thing I meant to say. I got all thrown off by y'all not being very anxious. I'm just kidding. One thing, if you do have anxiety when it comes to taking math tests, okay, and I always tell my students this, and y'all are going to be learning exponential functions behind us. Let me close them out. As exciting as that is, because it is. But when you are handed the test, you know about brain dumping, right? Okay, as soon as the test gets put down in front of you, you're gonna have all this stuff swarming around. Oh, I gotta remember this, I gotta remember this. Dump your brain. Use the margins of the test. Anything going through your head about, oh, I better remember this, or I better remember this formula, and I better remember when he asked me about this, I'm gonna do this. Literally, just dump it onto your paper. Also, is there a rule that you have to do tests in the order that they are? No, right? I mean, it's numbered 1 through 20 or whatever. You don't have to do 1 and then 2 and then 3. If you've got something fresh on your mind, you're like, I'm gonna knock that out, and you know it's gonna be on the test, flip through, find that problem. Okay, definitely, like, there's no reason to do the test in order. There's no reason you can't dump your brain onto the test. And then most importantly, and this is gonna be the hardest thing, because this is the hardest thing for my students to follow, don't study right up until the second that test is handed out. Don't do that, okay? I mean, my students do it all the time. I'm like, okay, I'm handing out the test, put that notebook away. But that is then all of a sudden you're cramming things in your head and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, am I gonna ever remember this? I tell them 10 minutes, 10, maybe even 15 if you can. Put your stuff away, go walk around, go over to the spot, get a cup of coffee or get a soda from the machine. Just, if it's raining outside, walk around the building, but just take a few deep breaths, go to the bathroom, talk with some friends, not about the math, and just enjoy life for a few minutes. If you really know it, if you've done all these other preparations, doing your homework and that sort of thing, you're not gonna forget it just because you didn't study for 10 minutes up until. Okay, so that's probably the biggest piece of advice. It may be hardest to follow is don't cram it in your head right before, because then it's not understood as well. So, and peppermint